how confident do you feel about your skills as a coach? Now, maybe you have been focusing a lot of your efforts on building your business and marketing your services, but how much time have you invested in up-leveling your coaching skills? Now, this is actually something that I don't talk a lot about on the show, but going forward, that's definitely going to change starting with today's episode. So my guest today is Lee McDonough, and Lee is the CEO and founder of Coach with Clarity, which is a training and education company for life coaches and business coaches. She's also the host of the Coach with Clarity podcast and the author of the #1 Amazon bestseller, Act on Your Business, Braving the Storms of Entrepreneurship and Creating Success Through Mindset, Meaning, and Mindfulness. So Lee and I have a lot in common, including having come from the conventional healthcare world and now turning our attention to the world of coaching. After over a decade as a clinical social worker and public health professional, Lee became credentialed as a coach through the International Coach Federation, and she now provides her own training and continuing education for intuitive and innovative coaches. So Lee lives in North Carolina with her husband, their sons, and her pug, Phineas, and she joins us today to talk about all things coaching. So let's get into it. Well, hey, Lee, welcome to the show.
I am so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I am really excited for today's conversation because we are going to be diving into all things coaching. And, I noticed that this is actually a topic that we don't often talk about on this particular podcast, but I think it is so important. I know that you obviously think that it's pretty important too. But yeah, the skill of coaching, like the actual skill set of coaching, is just so foundational to building a business as a coach. It can feel kind of obvious maybe, but there's a lot to it. And I know that you've got a lot of wisdom to share with us. So I'm really looking forward to that. But before we get into everything, I would love for you just to introduce yourself, just to give our audience a bit of context. Just tell us a little bit more about you, Lee, and about the work that you do.
I would love to. So my name is Lee McDonough. I'm the founder of Coach with Clarity. And Coach with Clarity is really a place where we help women in helping professions transition into coaching and show them how to use their existing skill sets, training, experience, and wisdom and leverage that into a sustainable and prosperous coaching practice. So I got my start in social work and public health. So I was a social work and public health professional for many years. I was a licensed clinical social worker for almost 15 years. And my husband was in the Air Force. So we moved around quite a bit, and that allowed me to really get a taste of a lot of different ways of serving people. Certainly as a therapist and in mental health clinics. I did inpatient psych, outpatient psych. I worked in the neonatal ICU, which I absolutely loved. My last job working for someone else was actually working for the Air Force as the liaison between the base leadership and all of the helping agencies on base. That was where I started seeing how important relationships are in creating change, both on a micro level and a macro level. So then when my husband got out of the Air Force and we moved back to the United States from Germany, where we had been for 4 years, he purchased a dental practice because he's a periodontist.
Oh, wow.
So he was, it was a big change, actually. We went from military to civilian life, Europe to the United States.
Wow.
Being a business owner, it was a lot of change. So I took a little time off to help with that change process. And after about 9 months, started getting the itch to return to work. And yet on some level, I knew that I wanted to see what else was out there besides mental health and to see kind of where the next phase of my professional journey would lead me. And it was really through observing my husband's experience buying a business, learning how to be a business owner, balancing the responsibilities of being a clinician with also owning and operating a business. That was really stressful for both of us. And we had a lot of on-the-job training. And I kept wondering, aren't there people out there who can support him through this? And the more research I did, that's where I discovered coaching. And I started thinking, oh, I think I could do this. I think all of my experience as a therapist and in public health combined with supporting my husband in his business, I think could really situate me well to do this kind of work. And so that's kind of what led me into coaching. And the more people I coached, the more they asked me, how did you become a coach? And can you help me become one? And so that's when I kind of pivoted into the training and education side of the house. And that's really what I love doing most, is supporting other people in their professional journeys and helping them become more powerful coaches.
That's awesome. I love how that whole journey really evolved very organically with the just following what was working and what needed to happen at the time, and then kind of just going down the rabbit hole from there. It's really great. And so, I mean, in terms of fast forward to today, like
Yes.
what are you doing now exactly? Like, who are you helping? What are you helping them with?
So I would say the bulk of my time is spent on two major programs that I run. One is a initial certification program. It's accredited by the International Coaching Federation. So people who want to become certified coaches and hold that ICF credential can obtain their training through my certification program. So that's one piece. Then I also run a membership style continuing education program. So people that want support both around the skill of coaching and also the business of coaching can find that in the membership. And it just so happens that we provide the CCEs needed to maintain your coaching credential. So we've created this lovely little ecosystem for people. I do have a small mastermind that I run that's really more business oriented. I have a handful of one-on-one coaching clients because I love coaching. I never want to fully remove myself from that one-on-one coaching experience because it just delights me. So I would say in a given day, I'm probably maybe like 50% on the education side of the house, 25% on the coaching, and then 25% on actually running a business.
Okay, that's awesome. That's a good mix. I like it.
I like it too. Thanks.
Okay, so let's get into this topic. So I want to talk, obviously, we're going to talk about coaching. And first of all, I'd love to hear from you what your thoughts are on like how important is it for somebody to, I mean, there's a lot of different things that we have to focus on, right, when we're building a business. So tell us, how important is it for somebody to focus on developing their coaching skills and even developing, coaching mastery as they're building their business?
That is the right question to ask because it sets it up not as an either or, but a both and. Of course, we need to be doing all of the foundational components to build strong businesses while we are also improving our skill set as coaches, because ultimately, how we serve our clients, how well we serve our clients has so much to do with the health of our business. And so if we are constantly working on improving our craft, then that's going to come through in the results our clients achieve, and that will inform the health of our business. It'll be easier to market and to attract new people when we have a track record of really powerful transformation with our clients. So in many ways, I see developing your skills as a coach as being a way to build your business. So they really are inextricably linked. The other piece too, so much of being a powerful coach is around building strong relationships and creating containers in which that magic can happen. And I think in many ways, before we're able to do that with or for other people, we have to do it for ourselves. And especially when we're growing our businesses, there's a lot of internal stuff that many of us struggle with, whether it's inner critic, imposter syndrome, feeling like a fraud, all the things. And so when we know how to do some self-coaching and to navigate our way through that, then we develop both the skills and also the experiences that can help us connect better with our clients. So I really see it all working seamlessly together so that as we're building our coaching skill set, we're improving our business savvy and we're becoming better business owners too.
I love that. I totally agree with you. And there are just so many benefits. I agree, like to really honing your craft. And I like that point about like how it actually makes you a better, because entrepreneurship it can be very challenging at times. And if your like mindset is, shaky, it just becomes so much tougher. So yes, by honing your skills as a coach, you get to be your first client, right?
That's exactly right. And, I find that a lot of coaches on some level would describe their ideal client as an earlier version of themselves.
Definitely.
So that's the other piece. As we go through these things, we kind of learn through the school of hard knocks, and it places us in a wonderful situation to be even greater support for our clients.
Yeah, I agree. And also, what you said a couple minutes ago about really providing like a superb experience for your clients, like it just really doesn't, you can't replace that with marketing. Like you can, market and do all the flashy stuff and you can have that stuff, all the sizzle. But if you're not actually providing like an amazing service and transformation for your clients, then your business is going to be short-lived. Like you can maybe kind of like be shiny and sparkly in the beginning and just have it be kind of surface level. But if you're not really creating true change for people and true transformation, then you're not going to get great testimonials. It's just not, your business is at real risk of fizzling. So I think paying attention, it's easy to just pay attention to the marketing side and the business side and all that stuff. Paying attention to what you're actually doing with people, that makes a huge difference for the sustainability of your business.
That's so true. And I think many of us, I know I've had the experience of signing up for a course or a program or something that looked amazing.
Yeah.
And then once I got into it, I realized, oh, this person's great at marketing and they are terrible at delivery and implementation. And I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't think they intentionally meant to scam people, but they placed all of their focus on their pipeline and bringing people in and gave very little thought to the actual client experience. And when that happens, especially today with social media, it doesn't take long for word to spread. And so we'll find that perfect sweet spot balance of being a wonderful coach and a savvy marketer. But I would much rather be an amazing coach and the best kept secret than the other way around.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely. Okay, so I would love to hear more about your framework. So can you tell me about the 3 M's?
Yes. So a little backstory.
Yes.
When I was working as a therapist, I was trained in an approach that I'm sure many of your listeners are familiar with called acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT. I completed a 6-month traineeship in ACT through the Department of Veterans Affairs when I was working as a clinician for the VA. And in my life, I really view things as before ACT and after. ACT was just one of those things that completely revolutionized the way I related to myself and my family and friends and the world around me. And my mentor said to me, if you are going to be using ACT with your clients, you have to be willing to work through it yourself. You cannot ask your clients to do something you yourself aren't willing to do and haven't done. And so in that period of time, I was really living through and working through the principles of ACT. And one of the things I love most about that is while it is incredibly effective as a therapeutic modality, the core tenets are universally applicable. You don't have to be in the therapy room to get benefit from acceptance and commitment therapy. And like so many psychological approaches, God love them, there's so much jargon in there. Like the language, it can actually be quite off-putting and disconnecting, and it can make it even more difficult to really get to the core truths inside it. So when I was building my business and when I was working with clients, I started asking the question, what would it look like to apply the core principles of ACT in the entrepreneurial space? How can ACT support business owners in particular? And that is where the 3 M's came from. It's my interpretation, my riff on a lot of those classic ACT principles, but really designed with business owners and entrepreneurs in mind. So the 3 M's are essentially the main pillars of acceptance and commitment therapy. We're talking about meaning, we're talking about mindset, and we're talking about mindfulness. So meaning is all of that really juicy values work. What matters most to you? How well do your values show up in the actions that you're taking? Mindset for me is more than just thoughts, although that's certainly part of it. It's really looking at our internal landscape and how we relate to all of those private experiences we have, the thoughts, the emotions, the memories, the sensations, all of it. That's under the umbrella of mindset. And then, of course, mindfulness is all about present moment awareness and non-attachment and non-judgment and really being open to the moment. So when we have those 3 M's together, we can talk about them individually, but they work in harmony with each other to really provide a pathway to a life and a business that is anchored in what matters most to you, that reflects who you are and what you stand for, and allows you to be fully present in the world and in your life.
I love that. Okay, so you riffed on what you had already learned, but making it so much more accessible for people who are, in the coaching realm and want to hone their coaching skills. So meaning and mindset and mindfulness. Yeah, those were the
Correct.
three M's. Okay, I love those. So let's dig into those things a little bit more. Like how these are obviously then things that you teach people, like coaches and aspiring coaches, about how do you actually, like, what are the important key points to learn about each of them. Let's just dig
Yes.
in.
I have set it up so that there are essentially two processes within each of the M's. So
Okay.
again, very much mirroring what we might find in the literature around ACT. But when we're looking at meaning, we're really looking at what I call determine what matters and make it so. So determine what matters is essentially values identification and clarification. What do you want to stand for? What do you want your life to be about? What do you anchor into? And so there's some wonderful activities that we can do around identifying and clarifying values. That's part one. But then, of course, it's one thing to know your values, it's quite another to actually allow them to infuse your work and
Mm.
how you live. So that's where Make It So comes in. We're looking at how we can make decisions and take actions from a values aligned place. And we're also examining what happens when our values clash with each other because we're human beings. Many of us have multiple values, and sometimes those values can compete.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
what do we do when that comes up? So, all of that kind of falls under the umbrella of meaning, determining what matters and making it so.
Awesome. I love that. Okay. And so then with mindset, because you'd suggested that it's more than just like your thoughts. There's a lot more to it than that. So give me a little glimpse into what else is going on with mindset.
Yes, I think maybe this is a little different, perhaps, than what we typically think of when we think of mindset, of what's currently in the zeitgeist. We're really looking at those, what your internal landscape looks like. So
Mm.
all of the experiences that you are having right now in this moment that I wouldn't know you were having unless you told me. So I don't know what you're thinking or what you're feeling or what you're remembering. You can choose to share that with me, but if you don't, it remains private. But you are still very much aware of what is going on inside. And we each have responses to and sometimes reactions to those internal experiences. So, underneath the umbrella of mindset, essentially, is how do we develop a stronger relationship with ourselves? How do we face down the thoughts and the emotions we have? And so those are what those two processes are about. The first one I call create space, and that's very much about just allowing some separation, some freedom between the identity, the sense of self, and the thought. So just
Mm.
because our mind is telling us something doesn't necessarily make it true, doesn't mean it's something we have to buy into. And that when we can create some distance between the thought and who we are, in that space is choice. That's where we can choose. Do I want to buy into this thought? Do I want this thought to inform my actions? And then, of course, that connects with the values, which are really what motivate our
Mm.
actions. So,
Mm.
create space is all about creating that space between the thought and the self. And then with emotions, it's interesting to me that when we have an unwanted thought, we tend to like cling to it and believe it. When we have an unwanted emotion, we don't want anything to do with it. We tend to try
That's
to
true.
avoid it, right?
Yeah.
And so, really, then what we want to do with our emotions is what I call let it be. And this is the acceptance in
Mm.
acceptance and commitment therapy. And this is the
Mm.
hard part. Allowing those unwanted, undesirable experiences to be present, knowing that they're transient, they will come and go, even if they feel really intense in the moment. When we let them be, when we give them permission to be present, what we find is it can actually reduce the intensity and the duration. So those are the two pieces that fall under that meaning M's. We're really looking at create space, that's about your thoughts, and let it be, that's about your emotions.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's such an interesting thing, right? Like we hang on to, or make it mean, like, if we're feeling an uncomfortable feeling, it's like something has gone wrong and that it shouldn't be this way, right? Not, and it's
Yes.
so much. I mean, I don't know exactly how you teach it, but it certainly seems to me that allowing for the range of human emotions. There are going to be some bad human emotions and some good human emotions, and the bad ones, they they are human too, right? Like, and it doesn't mean that something has gone wrong and we need to resist it and make it go away and make it not be anymore. So I love that it's all so much of what you're teaching and talking about is accepting even the
Yes.
negative emotions.
Yes, even those emotions that don't feel good. And you're absolutely right that when we have an emotion that feels uncomfortable, our instinct is to think this, because this feels bad, it must be bad and I shouldn't have it. And so I should
Yeah.
try to get rid of it. Whereas instead, what if we looked at that unwanted emotion as an arrow pointing us towards something that needs our attention?
Hmm.
All of a sudden, we have a purpose to this emotion. And even though it may feel uncomfortable, now at least we know what to do with it. And so that's how I like to frame that. And sometimes that discomfort that comes from an emotion can signal, up, I'm out of alignment with my values, or I'm having a values clash, or I'm in an environment that isn't supporting who I want to be. Again, it's just an arrow pointing to something that needs our attention.
Yeah, absolutely. So instead of it being a negative that needs to go away, listen to it. And it's, yeah, I like that idea of just it's an arrow pointing to something. And that question, what if, is such a powerful question. It's a great way to reframe things.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me, so then we've got one more of your three M's. Then mindfulness. Tell me more about that.
Okay, so mindfulness, this is the one where I love the fact that in the last 10, even 20 years, we have seen society embrace mindfulness.
Yeah,
Though I think
absolutely.
oh my gosh, I think we're better for it. Though there are still some misconceptions around it, namely that mindfulness equals meditation.
Right.
And I would say that meditation is a wonderful mindfulness tool. And if it works for you, great. But it's certainly not limited to that. And when we're talking about mindfulness, the two processes that I'm looking at, number one is what I call anchor yourself. That's where we have the practice in place to anchor or ground into the present moment. That might look like meditation. It might look like going for a walk. It might look like paying close attention to your surroundings. It might look like mindful eating. There are all sorts of practices that can help us connect to the present moment, because when we're not in the present moment, we're either in the past or in the future. We're either
Mm.
worrying about what's yet to come or we're ruminating over what's already been. So when we can feel ourselves getting pulled either into the future or into the past, just the act of noticing that and returning to present, that's anchoring yourself. That is present moment awareness. So that's one process. The other process I call observe yourself. This one's a little more meta. This is where we kind of get a little further out there, but it's the idea that there is a part of the self that is always observing, that is always paying attention, and it is the constant. It is a through line throughout our entire lives. So as we grow and change and evolve, certainly there are aspects of ourself that do change along with that. And there is a constant, and that constant is the observer self. So when we can tap into the observer self, when we can get curious about how we think, and and I'm watching myself do this, it's almost like an out of body experience where we're really paying attention to the act of being alive. That is a very powerful experience and can also enhance mindfulness. So we're really looking at anchor yourself and observe yourself as the core processes under that mindfulness umbrella.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you just encapsulated those concepts of mindfulness because it's such powerful stuff, and it does feel like it's like unplugging from the matrix when you really grasp the concept of mindfulness, and it really can. Just is life changing. So, okay, I want to get more like into some practical stuff. Like, how does it look when how does it work for somebody to anchor, like a coach, to anchor her coaching work, business practice in these three M's? Can you give us some
Yes.
guidance?
Yes. So if you're thinking about, okay, these three M's, they sound great, but like, how do I actually use them in business?
Yeah.
The first thing I would say is you can start with any one of the three M's. You can start with any process.
Hmm.
And I find that starting with meaning tends to be the most helpful way to go. Because when you are starting or growing your business, it's so important that you understand, why am I doing this? Like, why run a business? There are so many other things I could be doing. Why am I running a business? And why am I running this business? Why is this important to me? And the minute we start asking those questions, we're immediately going into values. Because ideally, you are building your business on a set of core values that are personal to you, so it's you,
Mhm.
but it also represents your business. So being really clear on what matters most to you will then inform the vision you create for your business, your mission statement, your goals. All of that can be anchored in your values. And that is so helpful on so many levels because number one, you know that whatever decisions you take, it's going to be consistent with who you are as a person.
Right.
And number two, it's going to help you communicate who you are and what you do to your ideal client in such a way where they get it immediately. Because if they share your values or if they hold values that are complementary to your own, they're going to feel at home in your business immediately. And it's such a powerful way to attract the people that you want to work with and also to repel the people that you don't. So if there aren't a set of shared values there, it's not good or bad. There's no judgment, but it may just mean they're not a good fit for your business. So I would suggest starting with that first M and revisiting it because, again, our businesses grow over time. So even if you're 1 year, 2 years, 3, 5 years into business, we can all benefit from just kind of a values clarification and making sure that what I'm doing in my business is still very much aligned with how I want to show up in the world.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that because it's not like sort out your values once and then you never have to look at it or think about it again. It's totally a revisiting thing because I find that it's very easy to get, kind of slightly pushed off track of what your own values and priorities are, especially, in the online business world and there's all the shiny objects and you start doing this thing and doing this thing and you might not notice it at first, but then a year later, you're actually really functioning not in alignment with why you even began all of this in the first place. So I love that reminder to just check back in with your values and recalibrate if necessary.
Yes, it's something that I incorporate into my annual planning process. So
Mm.
every year when I'm, you know, December usually, end of November into December and I'm looking forward at the year to come, I start with a review of the last year and a review of my values. So I know
Mhm.
every year at minimum I'm going to be taking a close look at that and fine-tuning them as needed. I usually do wind up fine-tuning them a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's just only normal. That's just being human. That's awesome. Okay. So what other, like, how else can we get really, bring all of these concepts into, building a business, into our life as an entrepreneur, as a coach? Give me some more like hints and things.
Yeah, so let's move into that second M. Let's move into the mindset one because I
Mhm.
feel like that is of critical importance to entrepreneurs in particular.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, but as my experience, even before COVID, I was working from home. I was doing most everything via Zoom, and entrepreneurship could feel really lonely. And I was left alone with my thoughts a lot. And
Right.
that's not always a great place to
Not
be.
always great. Yeah.
Yeah. And especially early on, where I was doubting myself and I was wondering, who am I to do this? And do I have what it takes? And all of those thoughts that I think are pretty common to those of us
Mhm.
at all stages of our business, honestly. But to understand what those messages were and why I was having them helped so much. And that's what this mindset piece is all about. Because on some level, our minds are just trying to keep us safe. That's its number one priority. And
Mhm.
that's why our species has survived as long as it has, because
Yeah.
we are very concerned with our safety. And so if we are doing something that feels bold, that puts us out, that makes us more visible, it's understandable that the mind might view that as a threat because as your
Right.
visibility rises, your vulnerability rises, and that is not a safe place to be. And so the mind is going to use every tool that is at its disposal to reel you back in, including barraging you with all sorts of thoughts about you're going to fail, you're not going to be able to do this, who do you think you are? All of those things. So the minute we look at those thoughts not as capital T truth, but instead the mind's last ditch effort to keep us safe, then all of a sudden we can say, oh, okay, I see what this is. Let me ask, is this a time where I need to be safe or is this a time where I need to be visible? And the truth is, sometimes it's not always that easy, yes or no.
Right.
Sometimes there are going to be spaces and places where it's not safe to be super visible, and maybe backing off is not a bad move. But I would say by and large, it's going to be a time for us to acknowledge the thought and yet take the step forward anyway. But we can do that when we understand that the thought isn't true. It's just trying to keep us safe. And this isn't a time where I need to be safe. approaching my own thought process that way has been so liberating because it's given me that space to choose. And it's given me that space also then to connect with my intuition and see what my intuition has to say about this. What does my deeper knowing, my wisdom want me to know about this situation? Sometimes it's very different than what my mind would have me know, but the mind is loud and it's going to drown it out. So by just slowing it down and really looking through that intentional lens, we can then create more space for choice.
Yeah, I mean, wholeheartedly agree with everything that you're saying. And I mean, that's why this podcast is called Mindset and Marketing for Wellness Coaches, because of the supreme importance of mindset. People often ask me, what is the secret sauce? What do I think is the difference maker between coaches and entrepreneurs who are successful in their businesses and those who aren't? And I always answer mindset, because I can teach you all kinds of marketing stuff. I can teach you all kinds of business stuff. But if your mind is throwing up all kinds of barriers, obstacles, fears, limiting beliefs, reasons why this is never going to work, reasons why this is scary, all that stuff, you're just not going to put yourself in, you're not going to execute, or you're going to self-sabotage or whatever. Exactly like you said, if it's your mind wants to keep you safe, and it will give you so many reasons why this thing that you need to do or want to do is not safe. And it feels like the truth. And it's so funny that you said truth with a capital T, because that's what I say all the time, because it's inside your head and it feels like the stone cold truth. Like this is absolute fact, but it's not until you actually question it. And then, like you said, it gives you the choice. You create that separation from your thoughts and what you are deciding to do. So I love everything that you just said.
I knew that we were going to be like simpatico on this. And that's why I was so looking forward to our conversation. And I think the more we talk about this in the entrepreneurial space, the more we normalize when this happens. Because I think on some level, there can be a lot of shame around holding on to these doubts and fears and feelings of unworthiness and not enoughness. And so when we talk about it and when we normalize it, when we just say, this is a part of the entrepreneurial experience, you're not alone. Oh, it's like just breathing a sigh of relief. And then again, it just puts us in the perspective of being able to say, all right, I'm not alone. I can do this. What's the next step?
Yeah, agreed. Totally. Normalizing and bringing it out into the open is so important, because it just really, it's so easy to just function away in your own little silo, thinking that you're the only one who struggles with this stuff. And especially if you're a coach and you're functioning in the wellness world, you think that you're supposed to have it all handled and that you have to present this front that is like, you don't have any mindset issues. That's not your thing. You help other people with mindset issues. You don't have any issues of your own. So it's just so important to normalize that we all deal with this stuff. And it's a constant, for me anyway, constant process of checking back in and just using my own tools on myself so that I don't hold myself back. I don't know. I'm sure you have the same experience, Lee.
Yes, 100%. And, the other thing too, I remember back 2017, 2018, when everyone was supposed to have the perfect Instagram grid and was supposed to be glossy and gorgeous and perfectly organized. And there was this like cultivated vulnerability that was really predominant. And I think we've moved away from that. I think more than ever before, people want authenticity. They want to work with people that are real human beings. And I know I don't want to work with someone who looks perfect, who has this like perfectly airbrush polished image. Like that feels so off-putting to me. I want to work with someone who's real, that I can build a relationship with. And so that's why I think we don't have to put ourselves in the position of being perfect and having solved all of our mindset issues. In fact, it's so much more truthful to say, oh no, I'm human. I still deal with mindset issues. I deal with them every day, and every new level and every new milestone, a new one comes up, and that's okay. That's part of the process, and we're in it together. That's healing.
Oh, I totally agree. And I mean, really, it just embraces the concept of it being a constant evolution. Like we're all on a journey together, right? It's not like a destination where you have to get there and then you can have success, or you have to get there and then you don't have to worry about this anymore. It's ever changing, ever evolving. And that is entirely how it needs to be and is supposed to be. So it's okay.
Agreed. And so that's kind of an interesting segue into how that third M can support us, because when we are aware of that, when we understand like the big red X, you are here on the map, when we understand where that is in this point in time, and we can really anchor ourselves into the moment, then we know that whatever is going to come and whatever's already been, like, that's not our business right now. Now, of course, we want to look at data, past data, to inform our behaviors. And of course, we want to have a quarterly or an annual plan. It's not that we can't address the past and the future in our business. We can and we should, but not at the expense of the present. And especially when we're working with clients, really the number one thing we can do as coaches is to create that space for our clients where they feel safe, heard, respected, and are able to then explore and seek new opportunities. We do that. We respect our clients by being present with them in the moment. And so when we're able to practice mindfulness, then in the room with the client, we bring those tools with us, and they know that we're tracing every step they're taking. We're with them at every point. And we're able to do that because we are mindful. And so that's another piece that I think can really support coaches in particular within their business.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, there's so many ways that plays out, like that concept of mindfulness, like exactly what you said about how, yes, we need to look back and track our metrics and all of those things to build our business. And yes, we want to set goals and have intentions and, targets and all of those kinds of things. But that doesn't preclude, it's not more important than, or what did you say, at the expense of mindfulness, right? Like that is really that's the most important thing, is to be present. So in terms of like being mindful and present in your business as a whole, but also just what you mentioned in actual sessions with a client. Because I think that especially new coaches, it's very easy to get in your own head and be thinking about like, okay, what am I going to say next? And oh, did I say the wrong thing a couple minutes ago? I think I probably shouldn't have said it like that, right? And just get in your own head about it rather than just be present with your client, really listening, and let everything else organically come from that. But it's an act of faith to do that. And it's definitely a muscle that needs some strengthening when you're beginning.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. This has just been such an amazing conversation, Lee. I've really enjoyed like digging into all of these concepts and ideas and how it relates to, building a coaching business and entrepreneurship and all that good stuff. So, I mean, I would just love for you to tell people where they can go to connect with you and learn more about your work and all of those good things.
Well, thank you. I've so enjoyed this conversation too. It has flown by. I cannot believe we've been talking for as long as we have. And I could talk about the 3Ms all day. And if this is a topic that interests your listeners, you can actually download a free chapter of my book, Act on Your Business. If you go to coachwithclarity.com/act, you can get a chapter all about the 3Ms. So it's a lovely kind of synopsis of what we talked about today. And then, of course, you can go to coachwithclarity.com to learn more about me, about the Coach with Clarity podcast, and the work that I do.
Perfect. I will put those links in the show notes to make it nice and easy for everybody. And thank you once again. This has been just such a great time, Lee. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, Kim, thanks so much. This has been great.
Okay, well, there you have it. I hope that you enjoyed that discussion all around coaching skills and what it takes to become a truly masterful coach so that you can make a difference in the lives of your clients and build your business with authenticity. I would love to hear from you on this. How do you currently feel about your skills as a coach? And is this an area that you feel could use a little more attention or maybe a lot more attention? Let me know in the comments below this video, or if you're listening to the audio of this episode, then just find me on Instagram and let me know. Okay, that is all that I have got for you today. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you again very soon.